Hi everyone, and welcome to this video where we look at another computer in my classic computer collection. And today we're going to have a look at the Kaypro II. Now the Kaypro II was released in 1982 by Kaypro Computers, which was a daughter company of Non-Linear Systems. The computer was a portable computer, or we'd call it a luggable computer these days. It ran CP/M, which had become a common disk operating system for 8-bit disk-based computers, particularly those that were pitched at business. And the Kaypro II started a line of very successful Kaypro models. In fact, I'm not only going to show you the Kaypro II, but I do have another one, a Kaypro IV, that I'll show you towards the end of the video. They're well-known classic computers, and certainly pleased to have one in my collection. So let's have a look at it. This is not a Kaypro, but the story of the Kaypro II started with this machine, the Osborne I. This was the first portable computer in the modern sense of the word, in that it was an all-in-one package you could transport around fairly easily. It wasn't just this portability that was innovative, though. The Osborne was sold with all the productivity software a business was likely to use, bundled into the one price. This was something new for the industry, which usually sold these components separately. The Osborne was highly successful, and like with any successful concept, others wanted to jump on the bandwagon, and they targeted the Osborne's Achilles heel. The 5-inch screen was tiny. Furthermore, it could only display 52 columns of text across, rather than the more standard 80 columns. Non-linear systems seized on the screen issue, and they came up with a luggable sporting a larger 9-inch 80-column display. And they offered the same kind of deal, bundled software, all for the one price. The usurper was onto a winner. The Kaypro II was very successful, soon out-competing the Osborne and leading, at least in part, to the demise of the Osborne Computer Company in 1985. Like Osborne, Kaypro Computers made a big deal of the fact that everything you need was in the price. There were no hidden costs, as there often were with other computers. It was an effective strategy. Even if portability wasn't needed, the fact that you could just rock up to a store, pay the one price, and have everything you need was enticing. Check out this ad. You can see what I mean.
Yeah, I like to buy this $1,200 computer. That'll be $5,300 complete.
$5,300.
What with monitor, software, disk drive,
Etc., etc.
Oh. How much is that $1,000 computer? $4,400. How much is that $1,400 computer?
$3,900. No, Max. The 1,400 is $4,800. The 600 is $3,900.
I thought the 1,100 was $40.
Some computer companies give you a lot of options. Kaypro gives you a complete
Computer for $12.95. Kaypro started to appear in New Zealand around about the latter half of 1983, and they sold quite well to small businesses, professionals, people that needed to do a lot of writing and filing, like doctors, lawyers, writers, academics, anyone who wanted computing on the go. So here's my Kaypro II. Now, one thing I love about vintage computers are the designs that are used, and with the Kaypro II I just love the rugged case and the use of the blue and grey colours. Looks like it should be an oscilloscope or a piece of laboratory equipment, or maybe a bit of Cold War Army surplus gear sitting in the back of the Jeep. I've always wondered what kind of looks I'd get if I brought it into a coffee shop, asked for a power outlet and plonked it down on the table. I'm sure it would make heads turn. You notice the way it's just sitting there on the keyboard? Well, that's exactly what it's doing. It's just sitting there. Later Kaypros had a fold-down stand for the main unit, but with the Kaypro II you just balance the rubber feet on the edge of the keyboard and hope that you didn't knock it off accidentally. It's quite heavy, so it's quite safe there. My Kaypro II is a very early variant. You could tell this from the vertical drives. It also has a brightness knob in the front rather than around the back. Here you can see my Kaypro II next to a more typical one to the right of it. The vertical drive variant changed quite quickly to the more standard horizontal configuration, reportedly because the proximity of the left-hand drive to the monitor made the disk susceptible to corruption from electromagnetism. I haven't experienced this problem myself, but obviously it was an issue. I'll just mention that one of the later Kaypros, the Kaypro I, had vertical half-height drives. Now, I did say Kaypro I, even though it was released later after the Kaypro II. Yes, Kaypro computers had a very eccentric model naming system. Like the Osborne 1, there are no ports at the front. Anything that needs a cable comes off the back. So going from left to right, starting at the top, you can see a red reset button, and below that we have a rocker power switch, a fuse and a cord. And you'll note the cord is attached rather than having the more conventional cord socket. Across the top is a 25 dB serial connector for a modem or serial printer, and next to that a parallel printer port. Here is the serial number. As you can see, it's quite low. It's very easy to whip a cover off a Kaypro, and when we do, we find a single, neatly laid out board. Machine's powered by the Z80 chip and runs at 2.5 MHz. It's got 64K of RAM. The drives are double density, 40 track, single-sided, holding a total of 191 kilobytes. It's not huge, but it's typical of the time. The drive nearest the monitor here has an aluminium shield screwed to the bottom of it. Presumably this is to shield the disk from any stray electromagnetic rays. Here are the boards for the monitor and the PSU, and you can see there's still quite a bit of room in the case there. The machine came with no software at all, so I had a lot of fun making disks for it with my MS-DOS 386 machine, with software and disk images I found on the web. So I made disks for all the usual disks that came originally bundled with the machine. All kudos to the guys who keep archives of this material, which enable us hobbyists to do this kind of thing. It's good stuff. I then played around a little with CP/M, managing to extract files from CP/M archives using Virtual PC, and then transfer them from the PC directly to the Kaypro II through an RS-232 cable. This screen shows a transfer taking place using Kermit on the Kaypro on the left hand screen and Windows Hyperterminal on the right. I can tell you CP/M is not something to be tackled lightly. It's archaic, unintuitive, and requires quite a learning curve. And I was someone who was already familiar with the successor to CP/M, MS-DOS. Okay, so time to see the Kaypro at work, but first we'll need to set it up. It sets up very much like an Osborne 1. You just place the computer down, unclip the keyboard, which forms the bottom of the case. Inside there's a cord. Plug that into the keyboard, and then it's a matter of just taking it around and plugging it into the back of the unit. It's very much like a telephone cord, one of the old-fashioned telephone cords, coiled, of course. And the connector looks very much like a telephone connector as well, at least here in New Zealand. So this keyboard just sits under the case like that, as I mentioned. So the case just rests on it, and there we are, all set up, ready to go. So we'll boot the machine. In this video, I put the disk in, latch it down, and turn on the machine, and it boots straight from the floppy. It's probably not good practice. A better idea is to switch the machine on, wait till it warms up, wait till you see a message on the screen asking you to put a disk in, and then do it. But I guess I was just a little lazy when I recorded this. So there's our CP/M directory that shows the contents of the A disk, which is our CP/M system disk. I'm going to load up a disk on the B drive. There's the directory. This just has some games in it. And although Kaypro II is not a games machine, it's essentially a business machine, I just want to show you one or two of these games because it does show the nature of them. This is a chess game, and because the Kaypro II showed no graphics, everything had to be ASCII based, and you could play these sorts of games on mainframe and mini computers really. So here we are in chess. See, it asks us if we want to print the game out as we go, which is certainly something that you would get the old teletype days. So there's our chessboard. As you can see, all the characters are made up from just ASCII characters, but nevertheless it certainly allows us to play the game. I can just put in where I want my pieces to move there, and it simply refreshes the screen for me. It's simply by scrolling upwards, and represents my pieces by a combination of characters. So pretty simple, but nonetheless effective. if you want a very simple non-graphic game. Now, getting down to business, I'll show you Perfect Writer. So this was one of the packages that came with the early Kaypros, bundled in. Good simple word processor, pretty easy to use. We'll just see the screen boot up. Very uncluttered screen, so just allowed you to type in your pros as so. Of course, it did rely on you knowing a lot of key combinations to do things with it. It's actually a very similar to Mince on some larger machines, and I remember using Mince on a Prime right back in the day before I got my own microcomputer. So I did have some familiarity with that, what was a text editor at that stage on a mini computer. So that's Perfect Writer. The Kaypro II came with a couple of basics, and one of these was good old Microsoft Basic, or MBasic. With the Kaypro II it was loaded off disk rather than being in ROM, as it was with a lot of the other 8-bit microcomputers. But CP/M versions are almost always loaded off the disk. So we're going to load another game here called Roulette. It's another one of these simple games. I'll just show it to you, so we'll get it off the disk. I'll list it for you so you can see that you see the code. So typical basic code. So you've got line numbers there going down. It's quite a long program. I wouldn't have liked to have typed that one in. So let's run it. And a bit similar to chess, it simply scrolls upwards. So again, you could use this program on just with a printer, and like I say, it sort of harks back to the older days of teleprinters, etc. And CP/M is a bit like that. It's got that real sort of mainframe mini feel to it almost. So we'll just go through the instructions here, so we'll know how to place a bet. I'm a very conservative gambler, so I won't be spending much money. So it's asking me how many bets there. Well, I think what I'll do is I'll be very conservative, and I'll just make one bet, and I might even make the bet they suggest there as an example. So I'll put all of my money, $500, on black, and we'll see what happens. 24 black. Yes, it's a win. So I've now made $500, having started with 1,000. So that's pretty good going. So I'm going to leave it there. Play it safe. So ask me who I want the check written out to. So put my name in there, and there we go. Now, although the Perfect suite of software was sold originally with the Kaypro, people did have a choice a little later on. They could choose WordStar if they wanted to for their main word processor. Now, WordStar became a bit of a standard for 8-bit CP/M business machines. It had a lot of popularity, a lot of people used it, and so I just thought it would be worth showing it to you. So it was nice in that you had this comprehensive help screen at the top if you wanted it, which showed you a lot of those key combinations, and that was quite different from the likes of Perfect Writer, where you really had to have a reference card or at least know those key combinations in order to use it. With WordStar, if you wanted to, you could have all the key combinations up the top on the screen, so that they were there when you were ready. So I've just made a new file, and you'll see there they all are at the top of the screen. So now we can just start our editing on the space that's left. It doesn't show you every key combination up there, and in fact there are sub-menus that you can get to do other things, but certainly those are most of the things that you would want to do with WordStar. Okay, one last thing to show you. Kaypros, again, being very text-based, were excellent machines for text-based adventure games, in that there was a lot of real estate, 80 columns across, and of course with text-based adventure games you didn't need graphics, so they did make ideal platforms for these sorts of games. So many of the Infocom titles, like this one, Enchanter, came out for the likes of the Kaypro and other CPM machines. And although there weren't many games that your busy businessman or businesswoman could play, certainly these games were produced for this platform, and they tended to be very well written games and very sophisticated. So I haven't played Enchanter, but it starts a little like Zork, where you're sort of on a road, come to the fork in a road, and we'll go northeast from there, and takes a little while for the game to load off the disk. Of course, it can't hold the whole game in memory, so it has to load bits of it off the disk as you go, which can slow up progress a bit. But usually with these adventure games, it's puzzling them out, and the thinking process takes a lot longer than the disk access, so it's not really an issue. So there we are outside of a shack, which no doubt has something mysterious in it. So manuals, and boy have I got plenty. I've got manuals for all of the software that's with the Kaypro. You notice that user guide there. The user guide is not for this very early model of the Kaypro, but I have found a user guide that is. And this was bought by a friend of mine. And this user guide deals specifically with my model, the one with the vertical drives. So even though I've got this just as a PDF, I might just use this one to quickly flick through to show you what the user manual would have given the new owners of this computer. Now I'm just going to show you a few selected pages, so we're not going to go through all of the manual. And I've selected these pages just to give you a feel as to what the manual contained. It had quite a friendly and approachable style, which was important because most people that would have bought the Kaypros would never have come across computers before, so they were intimidating machines, so the manual was written to try to make people feel at ease. So some whimsical diagrams there are used. So it talks about the various parts of the computer, how you might set it up, the operating system itself, a little bit of information on the software, just an overview, really, because the software was covered in specific manuals. A little on the care and maintenance of diskettes, and for a lot of people this would be the first time they'd come across diskettes, so some important information. How to get starting in some of the basic tasks like word processing or spreadsheet work. S-Basic if you want to do some programming. And then a section which was a bit more technical, so how to troubleshoot warm and cold boots, the difference between those, how to connect up peripherals like printers, for example. And right at the end, an appendix with some more hardcore technical information like a memory map, what the control keys do, and ASCII codes on the keyboard, and finally a glossary for all those confusing terms. So that gives you a feel of what the manual is like. Now, this video is about the Kaypro II, but I can't resist showing you my Kaypro IV. Here it is, and you can see it's a little bit different from the Kaypro II in that we've got half-height drives, and they're orientated in a more conventional horizontal position. So going around the back, there's a few changes from the Kaypro II. You can see that the Kaypro IV's got a fan. The power cord's been replaced by a power socket, and there are 3 ports up the top now. There's an extra serial port there as well, and also a port for a telephone line for a modem. A couple of other features of the Kaypro IV. One was a real-time clock, battery powered, and the other was the ability to display screen graphics. So here you can see the Kaypro IV playing Space Invaders,
And of course this was quite a useful feature, not just for playing games like this, but also for graphs and bar charts, and if the software can handle it, other sorts of graphics to help improve business productivity. So it was definitely an enhancement over the Kaypro II. So I won't finish this game. Instead, I'll pull back a bit so you can see the Kaypro IV in its full glory. Very nice looking machine, and I like the charcoal grey colour. It really is quite attractive. So there we are, the Kaypro IV.
Well, thanks for joining me on this look at Kaypro II, one of the very early portable computers. When you line them up against smartphones and tablets, they're positively prehistoric, but in many ways that's what gives them their charm. So until next time, keep well, and we'll see you in the next video.